Hello. This is my co-host for today. Unfortunately, it is not Bambos Charles Demetriou sitting next to me. It's just some clown who is kind of like Bambos Demetriou, but Bambos will be here rushing up the stairs at any moment. Until then, I'm going to make the announcement for the show, and then I'm going to bring our guest on. And then when Bambos comes in, he'll be hot and sweaty, and we will just bring him right in. Today, we have Karyn Leigh on. Karyn Leigh has been on the show once before. It was dealing, or I don't exactly remember the title of the show. It was Surviving an Open Marriage was the title. It was one of our most viewed shows. I strongly suggest going back to watching the video. It's also been edited for the podcast version. So either way, it's well worth listening to. It was very fun. And I'm sure we'll touch upon some of that also today. And I spoke to her a few weeks ago and we had a talk. And the talk was, something hit me, was that she decided at 50 years old to turn her life, or at least parts of her life, into a stand-up comedy routine. And when she did that, I had a moment in my stomach that was like, it's sort of the dream I've always had to do that. But it was like, wow, I would really need to practice to be comfortable enough to do something like that on the platform that she decided to do it. So we're going to discuss turning your life into a comedy, and we're going to do that on A Wonderful Chaos. So before I bring Karyn on, I just want to give a little bit of context for today's show. When I've hit these special dates of birthdays, the 40 birthday, the 50 birthday, the 60 birthday, there's always a moment of, what do I want to do this year, which is something remarkable? So what do I want to do, which is stretches me out of my comfort zone and kind of takes whatever my life's experience is and creates something beautiful in the world. And of course, a lot of you know that I did the tour with the book, and that was sort of, I kind of consider that my 50th launch, although it happened when I was in 49. And even this show was part of this show, felt like this is a 50-year milestone event of doing something totally out of what I normally do, just to experience how it is to put myself in a situation that isn't so comfortable. And as you can see, we've done 176 of these shows since. And so when I saw that Karyn had taken this risk, it really touched me, because it dawned on me, wow, she's doing that thing that I often see myself doing, is saying, where do I feel an edge? Where do I feel like if I did this, it is not in my comfort zone, and yet I'm called to take this risk? And, there's safe risks, and then there's risks that go further and further from that safe harbor when you're at the sea and you're like, this could go really fucking bad. And I think the older one gets, the older you're like, you know what? Whatever I think really fucking bad is, it's never that bad. So in a way, I really felt a deep admiration when she took this step and said, I'm going to take and make a stand-up routine and let everyone view it. And especially, and you got to think to yourself, if you're doing this out in the Zoom land, the interactions, it's already so damn hard to do anything in Zoom and get responses. So if you're going to do comedy on Zoom, multiply the challenge by 10. And that's what she took on as a challenge. And so that's me filling up the air with useless words until Bambos Demetriou sits next to me.
Hello, Mr. Shalev.
How did I do, Bambos?
A wonderful chaos.
So Bambos just came in from a job. Karyn Leigh is now on. I was doing the intro. And
we're going to do that on?
We've already done it, Bambos. A Wonderful Chaos. We'll do it again.
And we're live. Hello.
I really wanted to do a second one because I wanted you to just have some time to breathe and come into
to
place.
feel that I'm actually part of this.
Yeah, because you ran up those stairs. I heard you, and I thought, oh, okay. In the back of my mind, I'm talking, but I'm also thinking to myself, how is he going to show up? Like in the middle of, you probably don't even know what the name of the show is.
I do. Turning my life into a comedy.
Oh, nice.
Welcome to my life.
Yes, I know it well. So we're with Karyn Leigh. I just shared a little bit of my gratitude to see taking steps like this where you take big risks, which often can be felt as big risks, and not all that separate from yesterday's show, which was my family's watching, because I think uncomfortable when my family's watching, because I think in some ways, as soon as you decide to take a risk like this and put yourself out there with stuff that could be edgy, you also know other people are going to be watching.
Yeah.
And
it's a human thing to judge and to label just because it's our way of making sense of the world, right?
Yeah. And so I would love to bring her on so we can discuss this. You know, there's one bad thing about bringing her on right now. The last time we brought Karyn Leigh on, she was crying before she began talking. You remember that?
No.
It's one of the sweetest.
Just
it was
kidding.
one of the sweetest intros that we ever had.
Like,
yeah.
It feels like God is shining from you on the right side.
Yeah, there's some bright. The sun is coming in.
Beautiful.
Hello.
So Karyn, you turned 50. You're getting old, right? And like life is coming to its inevitable demise. So what brings you to like spend the last years of your life turning your life into a comedy?
That's a great question.
Do you really think so?
No.
I thought it was horrible.
Maybe I should do the talking.
Yeah, maybe you should.
But you can still answer the question.
Yeah.
Well, I was super inspired. I've been working at it for a long time. I did an online class with this fantastic woman comedian, Alicia Datner. And I intended to perform at my 48th birthday, but I just didn't have it together. So by 50, I signed up for a community college stand-up class, and then it got canceled because of COVID. But we had the opportunity to hire the teacher for some private 15-minute Zoom sessions. So in those little coaching sessions, my life was, I can't say it was wonderful. It was total chaos in the early times of COVID and all of that. And so at my 50th birthday, I just got up and did something very unpolished. That was before I even had the class. But my friends were so flipping awesome. And I had one friend who said that was the best birthday party I've ever been to. And so despite like all the chaos that was going on at that time of my life, I was so encouraged by my friends, you know, and so I went for it. And then I had an opportunity to perform for all women, and that was more comfortable than today. So,
which brings me to my next question. Request. Can you give us an example of a story you at least you feel comfortable sharing with us? Because
I did. As you guys know, I feel so held and safe in your lovely presence. And even though I know this is going to eventually be a podcast and anyone in my life could potentially look for it, I do have my little costume props here. And if you're all open to it.
Very open.
You know, I told you before.
So I'm going to turn away.
I'm going to tell you, if you offer to Gambos, then it's going to happen. So you chose this route.
Can you take me off camera?
I'll take you off. I'll take you off. Yep. I'll remove you. You put your hand up when you want to come back on.
So while we're waiting.
Yeah.
So today I had a photo shoot with a client.
Okay.
And I was thinking, fuck, last time this year we were running out of toilet paper.
Where did that? That is the most random thought. What is it connected to at this moment?
Oh, okay. So when I work with my clients,
Yeah.
right? I tell them that bring out the thing that you're suppressing right now. So I had people saying, "Wow, I really want to take off my mask. I have to look confident."
Yeah.
So in order for them to share their story, I had to share something which was really vulnerable for me. I'm like, yeah, even like 6 weeks ago, I walk into the supermarket and I didn't have money again.
Uh-huh.
And I'm sharing this with you because when it happened to me last year this time, I was ashamed, I was hiding it, and I see now that I'm choosing to be a photographer. And this is part of that journey. Like there's consequences when I say yes, I'm a photographer. So there's the ups and the downs, and thank God I don't have a family, or else they will be suffering on me being an entrepreneur and whatnot. And we had a good laugh at that. But the funny thing is, when I was leaving, the guy said, "I know you worked an extra hour, so please add it to me." And I'm like, did my story get to you?
Exactly. He's like, am I going to keep you off the streets if I give you an extra hour? Okay, we've got Karyn Leigh that's on, and we're going to bring her on, and she's going to share part of the routine, and then we're going to...
In 3, 2, 1.
Don't do that. That's terrible. Hello.
Hi.
Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. I'm really grateful my parents sent me to Sunday school every Sunday, because now my best client pays me the big bucks to fulfill his missionary fetish. I learned the power of my pussy really early on watching TV with my little brother. I would assume the position, sidle up, open my legs wide, pull a big belly full of air into my pussy, and queef it out. He gave me the remote control just like that. So, I got really lucky when my parents sent me to a Baptist school right after they got divorced, because I had Bible class every day of the week and Sunday school. And so during the Old Testament, I would write the name of the boy that I was really in love with on every page of those crinkly pages of the Bible. There were a lot of pages. And it really helped me pay attention. I would squeeze those little girl legs together under the table and imagine what he might Deuteronomy, him giving me a really nice Leviticus. And I knew he would Exodus before he knocked me up. Well, we get to the New Testament, and I was a little confused because Jesus hung around with 12 disciples. I had an illustrated Bible, and, there was this beautiful picture of Paul's conversion on the road to Damascus and all this light. And then I get to the Romans, and they're all wearing shorter skirts than I'm allowed to wear. And I'm kind of looking at the picture in my Bible, they barely covered their cheeks. Anyway, so imagine my relief when it really, really sunk in that Jesus loves Mary Magdalene. And we all know what her chosen career was. So from that day on, I knew what I was going to be when I grew up. So now a word from our sponsor, because I don't want you to worry about my little brother. He's happily married to a gay man. And he's had, I'm so grateful for the Queefs Are Us organization. They're empowering pussies around the world. And they even started the best PTQD rehab in the world. So my brother has been to post-traumatic queef disorder rehab 3 times. He's now happily married to a gay man. And the only, we talked about the trauma as a child. And so I'm not allowed to watch TV with my niece and nephew. We make trade-offs in life. So thank you.
Oh, I love it. Oh.
Bravo.
Oh my God. Yeah, I see when you said I could share all this and let this be out in the world. You could imagine that anyone who holds tightly to that Bible is not going to be happy to hear what you're saying.
Well, no offense, but we do carry a lot of the audience are atheists.
No, I know. Yeah, you're playing to the right audience here. We have Bowl along, as you know from our. He's loving you.
Karyn loves cats.
Yeah. Yes. She loves cats.
Yeah.
You know what I love about the set is and it's not a lot different from me when we'll talk about someone who's
Why do you always have to make it about you?
Healed from a wound. This isn't about me, is it?
I'm just teasing you.
Oh, good. I was just trying to think how it was about me.
I was being like your wife.
Oh, good. I was just trying to figure out where you were right. Actually, I'm like, that wasn't about. Is that when you're telling this in a way, you're really healing from all of the nonsense that you had to deal with as a kid.
Yeah. I mean, the primary formula of comedy is pain plus truth equals humor. And so
when you went to that, because I was fascinated, I didn't even realize that you had gone to a course or at least hired someone to help you come up with your own set. So what was it that you got out of those sessions that you were said, oh, this helped me better understand how I do my own set?
She was really fantastic, Chelsea Pierce. And she's been practicing for a long time. So she knew what was funny and what wasn't. And it took many forms. At the beginning, it was during COVID, and I was like dealing with spiders and letting them live in my space. And she's like, oh, pet spiders, that's kind of funny. And but it developed. And then when we hit this vein, then it was just like, that's what you got to do. And even working on comedy with a different teacher earlier online, it was very different because I didn't hire her to help me personally. She said, do where you don't want to go. And that's the place. And I heard in that time, like, go to the sex stuff and, but it's like, oh my gosh.
I think that sounds so beautiful. Go where you don't want to go. Because to be honest with you, when I write where I don't want to go. It's the same. I know Bambos, when we do shows, that's our inspiration. When Bambo says, I don't want to go there, we're like, that's a great show.
And then we laugh.
Yeah. And it's fucking great.
And it's fucking great. We had yesterday's show was, what was it? What was the title of our show yesterday? Uncomfortable That My Family Is Watching was the title of yesterday's show.
Oh, yeah.
Bolalong says pain plus truth equals humor. It makes sense. Yeah.
Just finding ways to celebrate life.
Yeah,
I think
smoking fun. And ironically enough, at one of the church services I went to with my family, that I used to like going to church. I learned so much from sermons and things, and it was about being unoffendable.
Yeah.
And that was the sermon. And I took that away, and it was so, I've kept it, and I'll even sing the song as unoffendable in every way, unoffendable.
I'm here to say,
Yeah.
just because you take offense to everything doesn't mean I need to compromise a thing. Go fuck yourself, and we will talk again one day.
Oh, Andy, we gotta get a duo going here. Or trio.
Andy's gonna jam session with you.
I am my head is just rushing with funny stuff in it right now as we talk. Yesterday, Bambos told a story at the end of our show because we want to do a show which is share your most embarrassing moment with us, and we're just going to share those online in a show.
Yeah.
And when our embarrassing, obviously we could do an hour ourselves, but we want other people to participate. And of course, we get zero participation, right?
That's not true. We got a few today.
We got one. Okay, we got one video and we got a few written stuff.
Yeah.
But I want to get back to your point, and your point is funny, is that I realized when you said it's unoffendable, right? Like, be unoffendable. In some ways, I think Bambos and I, of course, by doing this show, we allow ourselves to be so out there sharing such vulnerable stuff that we have to be able to laugh at it, because if we didn't laugh, we'd be crying all the time.
I mean, there was a
really good things to do. Laughter and tears are both such cathartic, beautiful human expressions and releases. So
yeah.
Just the things that we hide, like just going to the company today and everyone confiding in me, like unmasking themselves. I'm like, wow, and of course I don't impose this, but in my mind it's like, wow, if everyone just sat on the table instead of talking about what they're going to do in the next half a year, they just shared how they're actually feeling and which archetype they're trying to embody as opposed to who they really are. Like, it just blows my mind where they could be. Like the things that we hide out of shame.
Yeah.
We actually make ourselves smaller without knowing it.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's it right there. We could just, and probably no matter how many times you say that, the best thing that we can do is exactly what you're doing, is just to reveal yourself.
Yeah.
And model it.
Yeah. Model it.
I was trying to think of my most embarrassing moment.
I was going to say, I think there's got to be a big list, because I could probably tell you 5 that you don't even remember anymore. Bambos on yesterday's show shared his first sexual experience.
It was really bad.
and in retrospect, now listening to our discussion, that would be something you tell in a comedy skit.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could make a really good comedy skit out of that. And I teach, creative alchemy for that reason too, because we need places to share what's most vulnerable in a place where we receive unconditional positive regard.
Yeah.
And if things come up that need repair, we have an agreement as well that we'll go there and we'll repair it. And I know, Andy and I were talking before the show about one of our dear friends and the pain that came through with the misunderstanding of something in his last book. And it just, to have an agreement with people ahead of time that if feelings get hurt, there's going to be a repair process, is another way to encourage everybody to show up and be real. And
Yeah. And I think that's where friendships are forged, because what happens is the mistakes are made, and then how do you meet each other in it? And then do you see the intention, or do you interpret? And that's where, at least in this other case, I was able to create connection again.
Nice.
And that's where real friendship, because I always think friendships out of convenience are also easy to make because you've got no challenge to overcome. It's when things come up that you really get to see if you're, if you can weather that and become closer.
Well, I'm laughing. I'm laughing because last week a friend of mine was judging me for not making time for a dinner that she's trying to organize. And instead of asking me what's behind that, she just leaves this WhatsApp group that we had. So I messaged her, like, fuck you and your judgments, you blind bitch. and then she responded in a way which was like, we have nothing more to talk about it. And it sat in my stomach like, okay, it felt good, and now I don't want to leave it like this. So I messaged, I'm like, hey, listen, when you called me, I was in a little bit of a panic attack, and feeling the judgment, which was not being named, I just didn't feel loved and cared for in that moment. And looking back how I responded, I just see how much pain I was in. And then she responded really beautifully, and she even signed it, blind bitch.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Have you actually stood on a stage?
Well, at my own birthday party, I had a stage. I actually love performing. It's something from a kid that I just love doing it. I used to stand on the stage. I used to make a stage in my home, at the first home that I lived in Orange County, had like a sunken living room. So it was just a little step up, and that was my stage. And I used markers and I lip sync to Donnie and Marie's I'm a little bit country, I'm a little bit rock and roll. I had a mic for each of the parts.
That's a reference you don't know, I don't think, do you?
Oh, probably not. Yeah. No, it's very American.
Yeah.
They were twins.
I've said it to Ronnie often. She doesn't know what I'm talking about.
Right. Yeah.
We should do a wonderful chaos on stage live.
I think we should. Of course we will, when we can. I mean,
and I was seated for my little bit right now too. I wasn't standing.
No, but when you have these courses and this teacher kind of guides you. I asked the question. I didn't feel like I got a really clear answer of what you really learned from it. Like, what is the thing that you took away that now, I understand a bit more comedy? Was there something in there that you were like, now I understand how it works? Or was it go to the place that's most least, like she helped me find what's the least comfortable thing for me to address, and now I'm going to run with it. Was that kind of the journey you took?
Well, and really about brevity. Because I have a tendency, and I noticed it even here, I took a little bit of liberty and expanded. It's not as funny. People really, they don't want you to go on and on. So the nugget was like, get to the frickin' punchline.
Yeah. Because
that's the flip side of being comfortable, is that's where my editing process and because I'm like, but it's not funny.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, I think that's with everything, isn't it? Because it's almost like someone says a joke and then they have to explain it. You're like, okay, it wasn't funny if you have to explain it. Like, you know, I either get it or I don't get it. But once you explain it, it's long gone.
Right. Yeah. And I tested out one that I didn't share today with a room full of teenage boys with my sons, and they were just like, but mom, to do stand-up you have to be funny. They didn't think it was funny at all.
Yeah, but do you think any child will say to their mother that their stand-up routine is, like the stand-up routine, the most funny one is going to talk about your relationship with your kids, right?
I go there later. Well, not as much with my kids specifically, but with their dad. So
I want to see you on America's Got Talent now.
Yes.
Do they do comedy on there?
Yeah, they do. They have some comics on there for sure.
So there's no competition.
Yeah. You phrased that one term when you came on last time, which was perfect, was my husband.
Yeah.
That was the perfect term that I had never heard before. My husband.
I didn't get that. That was my Bajan. I actually have a platonic wife, and she's from Barbados in the Caribbean, and she came up with that. So.
Oh, fantastic! When you do the comedy, clearly it's edgy, and you're going to be, discussing topics which can trigger people, I'm sure, in your family and in your closer and your kids, and even if your parents are watching. So how does it feel to do it knowing that, oh, they may not get this or they may be triggered by it?
Well, as of now, I'm really kind of over that. And the thing that's most interesting, Andy, is the more over it I am, the better relationship I've been having with everyone. Yeah. Somehow, like deep down, everyone wants us to be authentic because it gives so much permission. And I think everyone deep down feels so much safer with someone who's telling the truth or making fun about things than walking around pretending that a bunch of things aren't happening. So, and I don't, I used to tell on myself sometimes, and I've kind of learned to just not have certain conversations with certain people.
Yeah.
Because it's not because I'm hiding something, but just because it doesn't.
No, I got it. Why would you add something? I understand completely. Why would you add something that isn't going to be supportive of a contact with? It's like you're doing it for you then, not for the relationship or for the other person, We've been discussing this a lot on the show as well. Yeah.
I mean, I used to resent that, and now my life is set up in such a way where I get to be authentic all the time. And then it can just, and I'm even authentic with my family, but I wouldn't say, hey, I'm going to do my stand-up routine for the family Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah, but I mean, so there's no issue that's come up for you. I mean, in the sense you're over it and you're going to do it regardless. Even if you weren't over it, I'm sure you'd still do it.
Yeah, because they just don't pay attention.
Yeah. So, it's Karyn. I think that's the best thing in life. In life, when you've gotten to that point, there's so much freedom. When someone says, and that happened to me a long time ago, because when I was left America, like everyone's like, oh, it's just Andy being Andy. And as soon as you get to the point where everyone's so dismissive of whatever you're doing, just because you're doing whatever it is they don't understand, you have a lot of liberty then.
Yeah,
exactly. It's so much fun to be where I'm at in life. I mean, I look at my teenage boys and, they're just normal, growing, well, with all the abnormal things of life now.
Yeah.
But as far as their self-esteem and wanting to be in their peer group and not have a weird mom or this or that, I mean, that's just so normal.
Yeah. Have they introduced you to any of their girlfriends yet?
I met them, but as far as I know, neither one of them really has a girlfriend now.
Okay. They're not saying, Mom, when I bring her over, don't talk about these three things.
Actually, I've connected with their friends. They mostly hang out with guys.
Okay, great.
But yeah.
Bola Long asks a question which I have no clue what he's trying to say.
He's trying to be funny.
And I'm kind of wondering if it's speaking to his sexual prowess or not.
Why women don't like it when men go straight to the punchline during sex. Bola Long. Stay away from humor.
Bola Long. Yes. You got to revise that one. We need to make it more abridged so that it's because if I need to try to make sense of this one, we got trouble.
I know. I mean, the way I'm interpreting that.
No, it was when Karyn was sharing about making it too long, like get straight to the point.
Oh, yeah.
That's the opposite during sex. I'll just say that much.
Take it slow.
Take it slow and
slow.
don't even think about your finish line. If that's what that was referring to.
There was a time in my life, Karyn, where social norms were not something I was really aware of, or even like.
What do you mean a time in your life?
Oh, fuck. If we're laughing, it means I'm still there. So I'm in Cyprus, sitting with my family and my sister's daughter, her partner, and his family. And we're having a little gathering, and like it's serious between them. She's pregnant now, and so forth. And I'm sitting there bored, like we're talking. The men are making jokes, and I'm not really getting the humor. So then I intervened, and this was like the highlight of the evening. And I talked about how dildos ended up in my ass, and my mother left the room. This was really like a movie scene. And of
Here's
course,
my microphone right here. Awesome, dramatic.
Yeah, that's a bit too small. But so I remember while I was sharing this experience, halfway in, I realized, shit, this is a really bad idea. Have you had the moment?
Mothers just don't want to know.
Well, actually, no one wanted to know this.
Yeah. Although I have to say, in one of my relationships, when that man shared about his practices with that, it was like I felt so close to him because it was very like tender. And so in a certain context, perhaps not at the family table, but
you nailed it.
with someone you are intimate with and sharing sex, that could be just such a deep, beautiful way to connect with someone.
Well, this was just a funny story. I wouldn't call it vulnerable. It was just hilarious.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to share it on the embarrassing moments.
You know what I find brilliant about humor is that when humor is done really well, it's like a shared idea that everyone has had, but no one said it out loud.
That is part of it. And another a nugget that I got in the class is it really is important that you look for universal themes. And so even my Bajan wife, she didn't know what a queef was. And so I have to be sure if I tell that joke that people get it's a pussy fart, So,
but that would be even funnier to even add that to the routine, to say, just in case you don't know what I'm talking about.
I pussy farted on my brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's another important one. And even using the books of the Bible, I mean, that's assuming that people know the books of the Bible.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's always some cultural, some context.
Yeah.
Karyn, what would you say has been the biggest healing you've experienced through using comedy? Like, did it help you overcome something that you couldn't so easily laugh at?
Well, there's a lot more to it. And we touched upon this in our last show too, the whole double life and sort of playing up these parts now as empowering as opposed to disempowering and painful, because I've always been me, but I used to sneak around. And so the way that I set this up is that this is something to aspire to, and that, my chosen career is my chosen career and I'm really good at it. And now I teach others and, you know, go into Sunday schools and teach the Bible in the way it's meant to be taught. Mary Magdalene, all the way.
Yeah.
So it's very healing to sort of own that these things that were painful to be good at as a kid, now it's like, yeah, and I teach other people how to get good at it and command their big bucks.
Yeah.
Well, it's really inspiring to hear you speak. I actually just got a flash. I used to host connection games, and sometimes people have to share something that they're suffering, but to make it less heavy, they had to sing it in a if you were a guy in a girl's voice, if you're a girl in a man's voice, or be a 5-year-old and sing it. So in the end, you had the most traumatic story, but you couldn't keep a straight face.
That's brilliant. I got to write that down for Creative Alchemy. That sounds like I have a book of games from Authentic Connection, and there are some. That one is really good. I haven't heard that one.
Yeah.
Got to write it down. Well, I'll probably remember it. But singing in the opposite gender voice about something really traumatic. Wow. Wow. Do you have a good falsetto? You guys.
I think me and Andy also had to do something like this.
Yeah, we had a show. We had a show once when we did this. We had a friend of ours come on and force us to. Jeff Lieberman. For anyone that wants to see that episode, it's I don't know. Remember edgy?
I play edgy games.
I play edgy games. We did edgy games with that was with Jeff Lieberman. Yeah,
wow.
He's a king.
You know, the one thing that I find interesting is that we both share is that the religious church really took away all those years where we could have just enjoyed sex and not felt shame about it.
Yeah, I mean,
do you mean to say that
you
actually?
One of my embarrassing moments too was getting caught with my boyfriend in high school. I mean, now
do you want to sing it to us?
You got caught. Like, give us context here. Were you like in your house, or is like where were you caught?
I was in my bedroom, and I thought my parents were away for the whole afternoon. It was during the day, right? And they come home, and I think it was a Sunday afternoon, and they had been at church, and then they were I thought they went to a matinee, a movie or something, and they came home, and I literally ran in the backyard, and my boyfriend went and talked to them. But it was very traumatizing for a long time. I even had a recent dream where something similar happened, and I was so confused. I was like, wow, this is still deep in my subconscious as a trauma. I mean, the situation was different, of course, in the dream, but because the person that I had been having sex with in the dream wasn't even someone I wanted to have sex with. Really complicated. And then my stepdad came home from this is the dream, came home from church in his choir robe, and we were like cleaning up. And I was thinking, this is so not worth it.
So just help me on this story. So you jump out the window to get out of the house?
I had a sliding glass door in my room. That's how I always snuck out. And
did
I don't think they listened to these, but they have no idea what I was really doing. No,
but how was the reaction from them? Did
they know?
They
realized what was going on. I don't know. I mean, it was so long ago. I don't know. But then they were having this whole serious discussion with my boyfriend, who was in college. I was a sophomore in high school.
I remember this. Yeah, you were going out with the older men. Yes.
And you know, he went and talked to them, and then I had all these new rules, like no boys in my room, they wouldn't get a camper shell on the little pickup that I drove, because that would just be an invitation for teenagers to fornicate and be comfortable. So they know that we might, but we shouldn't be comfortable.
Oh yeah. That was my mom at some point gave up on it and allowed me to sleep with my girlfriend in the house. Like she's like, she just is like, Andy, you know,
She gave him condoms.
she just use a condom and, you know, be cautious, you know, take care. So yeah, so, you know, I won't name names, but yeah, we just slept together and it was just very normal.
Right.
Very normal.
Yeah. And now things are so different. I mean, my sons had sex ed in school where they teach them to put condoms on dildos and things. I mean, it's very hands-on. Sex ed at Baptist school was
abstinence.
Pretty much. I mean, there was a little bit of maybe reproductive information.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I remember at my Catholic grade school, there was that, you know, I always like when I go into comedy, then I always want to pull from the absurdity that we can't talk about sex, but the priest is molesting the students. So isn't this kind of, you know, like the absurdity is that we live in this world where we say, and we're not allowed to talk about that. Like, you know, that all that is unacceptable. This is just, you know, the molesting of kids, we can't talk. But the fact that you can't have or do any of these things is, you know, I remembered my first girlfriend in grade school is that they showed us in a very young age so many disease-related videos. So you can catch all these diseases from sex. And I don't know, I was 6th, 7th grade. I don't know, but it was young. So now all I know is I've been scared shitless that I'm gonna I can't kiss her because I'm worried if I kiss her, I catch a disease. So all I do is touch her boobs all the time because that was the only thing that I felt was safe because I can wash my hands afterwards and I'll survive this, you know? Like that was the kind of trauma that they were like putting into the system.
Now we get COVID, Andy. No touching breasts.
Yeah, that was the absurdity of living in those times.
Gosh. Oh my God.
Yeah.
We didn't even get sex education in Cyprus.
I'm sure you didn't get sex education in Cyprus.
We didn't get sex education in Cyprus.
No.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just so many. And now I wonder too, with the internet and all of the things kids can just find and explore, that presents like this whole reverse, and that's a whole other conversation. It's like, what if you learn to have sex from porn? That's not sex either. You know what I mean? There's just like
take out the what if, and then like let's state the fact, right? You've got all the kids. Tell someone they can't access something, you know they're there. Like whatever you can't have. So they're learning everything in these films, which clearly have nothing to do with the reality that they're going to be going into.
Right. And there is some progressive porn now that's more conscious about that, but you know, the mainstream stuff is just.
Can you give me some URLs, please?
I can send you.
There's a woman, she was really interesting, that she actually asks real couples to send in their videos, and it's called Make Love Not Porn, and there's
beautiful.
Really interesting movements around that, and women pro-women porn where, you know, women are actually having orgasms as opposed to just faking it and doing it for the camera.
And taking their time.
We had one of our guests early on was Phyllis Serene, and you know she worked as a missionary, and then she worked as a dominatrix, and then she sort of evolved into like strongly against the feminist movement in the end. But the one thing that was really fascinating is that she was hired by people to watch them have sex, and she just watched them have sex, and then sort of evaluate, coach, share things that she noticed. It was quite interesting to hear that that's actually something you would get paid for.
That sounds like
Fun.
Yeah.
really cool work. I mean,
Doesn't it?
it would require so much trust on so many levels. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a great job.
Yeah, I loved it when she shared it. There, Bolalong asks again, should the comedian laugh at their joke or not? I find the serious comedians really funny when their jokes are good.
I think most comedians don't laugh at their jokes. That really breaks especially it's good for me to stay in that serious character, and if I do start laughing, I really try to pull myself back, because then I'm joining the audience in some way, but really in my case, and everyone's different. I mean, I think about someone like Jim Carrey, who's just so off the wall a lot of the time, and he's making but he's not really laughing at his own jokes, although sometimes. So yeah, the short version is usually not.
I think one of the people that came to my mind when I saw that comment was Jerry Seinfeld, because he was infamous to be a horrible actor, because he would just kind of do his thing and break character even in the show, laugh at the things he was saying, which is just funny to see that, if someone has their way of doing it, they can get away with it, of course, if it's their type of comedy. Yeah.
Well, and that is a form of comedy, all the outtakes of the Seinfeld cast where they crack up, and they couldn't go on with the scene because they're having so much fun together, and they are laughing all the time, and those are very fun to watch in their context. So I guess context is king. If I developed a character where we're all laughing together, then that could work.
Yeah, I saw that one evolution of the creator, I think, of Seinfeld. I don't know if you know it was Seinfeld, but he went on to do Curb Your Enthusiasm. It was Sanders. I don't know what the name of the guy's was now, but the humor was that you could watch those two shows and see that basically there was a very similar humor that they just sort of took over and just put into another generation. Yeah. Larry Sanders, I think the name was. Yeah.
What was the name of the movie that we did a presentation with? The best movie ever.
You say that with such fervent belief that that's true, don't you, Bambos?
Yes.
We I don't know if you saw, we did a show on the movie Being There, and we did
such a good movie. Oh my god!
And
no, it's not.
We spent an hour.
You hated it?
No, I liked it, but I wouldn't say it's the best movie. But for Andy's reasons, I agree.
We did it as it was an hour-long breakdown of how this movie was so humorous in light of spirituality, projection work, where people project and then have a belief that then gets verified because everything they hear now is in light of a prior belief they have. So we just looked at it through that lens and saw that it was humorous, but it was also much deeper. It spoke to a much deeper theme in humanity that we're often not really paying attention to.
And apparently the actors had a hard time keeping a straight face, even though it was meant to be
totally straight. In fact, I think one of the jokes was you went through the movie not even realize you were watching a comedy because it was so serious. You had to figure out that this is actually a comedy. It isn't a drama. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've only seen it once, but it was very provocative. For sure.
So if you were to say like where you want to go further with the comedy, or if there are any other areas you'd like to explore, do you have those, or what's your next step in this whole game?
Well, like I was saying before we came on, I'm practicing. I have these jokes and cards, and it's a whole process. So I do want to expand the set. I wrapped it up differently in the part that you saw, but I want to save that. So if anyone that hears this is curious, I don't want to give away some of my very best things, but I would love to have maybe a 20-minute super tight offering. And then I do have a friend who said they would send a demo to some people who actually look for new routines in Los Angeles. I'm totally open to where it wants to take me. I mean, it is a process.
Mm-hmm.
And I, like all the things, all my creative projects, I sort of pick it up and work on it a little bit, and then I set it down and I work on another thing. And so I have lots of creative projects in the works, but I have fun with it. And I like the editing process. It's that part appeals to the intellect and the sort of, it works with different parts of the brain.
I would love to see some routine around the open marriage thing.
Oh, yeah.
I think there would be so much humor in that based on the last show we did.
I'm still, that's my current boyfriend thinks so too, but I still process some of that.
I can send you over some things that I think that'd be funny if you'd say. So we can start there. You can decide what you want to do with it.
My coach on that one, Andy.
Did you ever trigger someone to the point where you'd get an angry email or a call or silent treatment?
Well, yeah, my last partner. that was a regular thing in our relationship.
But not because because of the comedy?
No, and I think that was a big reason that I didn't do it when I was in relationship with him. He wasn't at that 50th birthday party. He didn't think anything was funny. He didn't have a sense of humor about the
worst part of my life, and you're trying to make humor out of it.
Yeah. So
I'm assuming it never happened then.
I haven't. Not yet.
I mean, I assume the groups you're going to, people already have you're already in some contact with them, so it's hard to defend them. I guarantee you, if you went to a church service and gave the same thing, you would get some hate mail afterwards.
Right. And my friend,
that smile of yours.
I would do it.
Even for that women's group that's very progressive, she got a sad face at some point. But so far, no. But I look forward to that, because that means that I've actually hit some kind of critical mass. I remember different coaches and people that I've worked with, they're like, when you start getting the hate mail, you know that you've made an impact, because that means there's enough people paying attention that it actually offended someone. So then I would know I'd actually made it.
We got a way to go, Bambos.
Well, I think we should do a show on of being offended.
Yeah, our criticism. I wanted your strong criticism.
I like
I like the word offended.
Okay.
Have you been like on your journey of learning these skills? Have you been triggered to the point like diving into the dark night of the soul?
I just routinely go there. That's just who I am. I'm so grateful recently that even things, I don't know, was it 6 months ago when we talked last, that were still very, very tender for me, feel like they're healing. And now, I ride my emotional wave, but it's a very gentle wave. It's like the tsunami. So gratefully, at this point, I am grateful that I don't experience that panicky, triggered freak out space.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Or the despair. I think the last frontier of it was this sense that there was just this bottomless despair, and I couldn't even get to the root of it. And it doesn't really come forth. And a teacher of mine suggested, so much of our experience happens from what we identify with. So if I identify as this or that, then I can feel despair because I'm not living up to some identity that I've attached myself to. And this teacher, Matt Kahn, he just said, what if you just identify as the light? Mm-hmm. And if you identify as light and something that can't be harmed and can't be diminished and whatnot, it's pretty remarkable. And deep down that everyone else is eternal as well. So we're going to grieve losses. We're going to have human experiences. And I believe it's important not to bypass. And when feelings and when big things come up, I hold big space for that. And yet, and I still have things come up, but they come up and they don't take me out anymore because my life is supportive of me. Finally, I finally got myself into a really healthy, generative relationship and space in my life where, I don't identify with the things that would take me completely under.
Yeah, I know we're over an hour, but I want to ask you one more question.
Sure.
When did you get the insight that this would be a path for healing? Because I can imagine when you were 40. Yeah, I can imagine when you were 40 or 30, you weren't so easily laughing at yourself.
I've always had this sort of maverick inside me that could see the humor. I mean, even when I was going through the devastation of when my sons were taken from me when I was 3 and 5, and my now husband was trying to prove that I was an unfit mother and all this. I mean, it was so incredibly painful. I knew at some point I would get to the humor. I mean, not too long after. And then I reconciled with him for 5 years and, but I've always been able to see like that other side of most of my self-seriousness. I mean, sometimes it takes me under, but there's always that voice.
We need that, right?
You can take yourself so seriously. You're going to take yourself more seriously than anyone else. Most people are not even paying attention to us. They're stuck in their own process.
Yeah, seriousness.
Yeah.
Nice. Like, come to think about of the work that you do, right? Like, whatever statement you have, and it's fucking great. In a way, it is funny to say that.
Oh yeah.
Like,
yeah. I mean, I think, we're talking about humor, and I look at humor as a broad topic for me because I see it's the laughter and the pain, which are so connected. And if you fall too much to the laughter, then you would say in your language earlier, you're spiritually bypassing a little bit. You're saying, hey, let's laugh at this because if I laugh at it, I don't have to really feel the pain. And if I go to the pain and I just wallow in it, then I'm identifying with that pain, and that makes me it's a negative reinforcing loop. So in a weird way, it's the paradox, and I even wrote the word paradox when we began earlier on, is that it's holding those two and the absurdity of that without falling into either one, or when you do fall into it, being conscious enough that it doesn't linger longer than it needs to. And then I see the beauty of it is that channeling that, as you have here, into comedy is this beautiful outlet that shows the absurdity of it and then actually brings light to something where there might not be. Because even as you were speaking, I was seeing a whole routine in my head with the Virgin, the whole idea of it was my brain was exploding with, oh God, if I was going to do a routine, who's the professional virgin today, and then move into all of the absurdity of the fact that, if you're a professional virgin, then what does that mean? What does a date look like? So what would a date like Mary look like? Right. And then she could only go out on 1 or 2 dates because no guy would hang around long enough.
Third book.
So just the whole absurdity of taking a Bible for its word seriously, and then taking that and bringing it into today's society, where then it becomes very humorous. I mean, all of that.
Because mine goes on to explore that in the comic way too.
Obviously. I mean, I even thought to myself, well, I'm a virgin as long as I leave some of the holes empty, then I can claim virginhood, right? And then,
maybe the opening one should be, my best client pays me the big bucks. I was really lucky when I got sent to Catholic high school with Andy.
Yeah.
But I was really lucky to go to Catholic high school because my very best client, pays me the most to play his Virgin Mary fantasy. It's like, let's think about that one a little bit.
Yeah. But some of those are so nuanced, though, that you need to be in the field to understand them, right? Because that's where it goes. I'm like, oh, yeah, my God, I know 500 of those characters that are looking for the Virgin Mary over and over again, and then they can't go out with her if they think that she slept with 2 or 3 guys, right?
Right.
You mean you've slept with other men?
Yeah, exactly.
How could you?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I think
Those
it was
are the wins.
I think it was a Tarantino movie where he says, in the quiet words of the Virgin Mary, come again.
And your high school swim coach from that Catholic high school, you can see he's got his hand on his chin, wondering what the hell is going on here. JC, thank you for joining us for the hour.
And we're gonna see you again tomorrow for another hour.
I'm sure I hope we do.
Right in the hats.
Yes. So yes, thank you for joining us again. It was really great to be with you.
Thank you.
Very fun. Thank you guys. You guys are doing good work.
Yeah, I look forward to finding our next topic to talk about. Somehow with you, we're always going to find our way back to sex. So let's just call it sex.
Let's just get straight to the punchline.
I think we should just do a show next time. We're just going to do it on sex, and then that's it. We leave it open.
All right.
What is that?
I'll save my closing joke for the next show.
I love it. Love you, Karyn. We'll talk.
Love you.
Bye.
Thank you, by the way, for the fact that I was late and you still just like I can imagine if this was like a professional podcast.
Oh yeah,
it would have been an issue.
Oh really?
If people really identified with
that it needs to be a certain way or something.
Yeah. But then again, a lot of podcasts are not live.
True. Yeah, I mean, part of the joy of doing this is putting ourselves in the strain of trying things when they're not comfortable. Of, when I did the intro when you weren't here, it was so forced. I didn't feel, I spoke and I'm like, yeah, I can't see myself wanting to do this if you weren't there. It was it's like, now I'm trying to create a story where when we're together, we're just chit-chatting and then we bring someone on to join us. So I certainly saw that I needed to go on, by the way, otherwise we would have lost our slot.
I got that.
So I was forced to go on. Otherwise I would have waited a bit longer.
I was in traffic.
But yeah. And I mean, the shows, of course, with Karyn, I always find beautiful because, even on the shows we do, it's not easy for people to meet us in some of the, call it the edgier parts of where we discuss.
Yeah.
And you see, she'll meet us and match us, and sometimes say, "And I'll raise you," and so like that's
she throws a dildo in the
exactly, and you're like, we might have gone there, but we would have thought, no, we don't want to make you uncomfortable.
I came completely unprepared.
So in that way, I think it's really sweet to have guests on, because like we said, it's really hard to leave yourself so vulnerable to the world because there's a lot of judgment, as we discussed in yesterday's podcast. And yeah, so thank God we have these beautiful souls like Karyn out there that are creating chaos for us to enjoy with them. So
I need to apologize to Bulelang. He got offended.
Oh, nice. Bowl along, just to make sure. He is telling us he does not like it when we insinuate that A Wonderful Chaos is not a professional podcast.
When Bambos insinuates. You know what I mean, Bulelang.
Bowl along, there's an idea of what professionalism is, and we agree with you. Everything that shows on this show is professional. Even when we use bad words, when we talk about dildos and bambos, but everything is professional as far as we're concerned.
And we're going to do that, more of this
and we're going to do more of this and much, much more. Where, Bambos?
On A Wonderful Chaos, Andy.
It
on
is
a wonderful chaos.
It is a chaos.